And Peter, regarding the foreign policy, a month before the Rab'a massacre, you wrote an article in the Telegraph, and I quote, "William Hague is betraying Britain's values in its response to the Egyptian coup." You strongly criticized the British foreign minister at the time. So, as a journalist, how do you evaluate the British government dealing with the Rab'a massacre at time? And is anything changed during the last 10 years?
It has to be understood. It has to be understood that Britain's foreign policy in the Middle East and across most of the rest of the world is structurally to favour dictatorship, and it's very hostile to democratic movements unless they're sponsored by the West, and certainly very hostile to movements like within political Islam and the Brotherhood. And so Hague made a very weak response to the coup d'etat. And in fact, the British government has never used the term coup d'etat. And as for John Kerry, he actually welcomed the arrival of Sisi, praising him for restoring democracy to Egypt. This is what John Kerry, then the Secretary of State, managed to come up with. And so whether or not the British government was in some way complicit with the coup d'etat and what followed, it's no question that what happened fitted perfectly with British government policy. As you could see very shortly afterwards, Sisi turned up in London in 2014 to visit David Cameron. There was a very brief and perfunctory cessation of arms sales to Egypt. And they started again almost at once. As a wretched ambassador, John Casson, who was obviously mandated by the British Foreign Office to suck up to Sisi, and they immediately started using the term terrorist about the Brotherhood activists. That became the language, particularly from visiting ministers who now like to project themselves as being very benign, like Alistair Burt, who presents himself as a bit of a saint these days, but wasn't then. He was part of the British policy of supporting Sisi and that kind of murderous despotism, which very much suited the interests of the West. And has anything changed? Of course not. That's precisely where we are now. Sisi is a valued ally of America, Britain, the West, and of course, and this is something the film didn't deal with. It was an amazing film, I thought, a brilliant film, absolutely terribly moving. Didn't deal with the role of neighbouring powers because that very interesting hint. Suddenly, those mysterious petrol strikes, etc. It didn't deal with the role of neighbouring powers, which, of course, part of that Western system of government, which may be collapsing now in what is increasingly becoming West Asia.